Matt Gaetz. Today, U.S. Congressman Matt Gaetz, Florida 01, introduced the End Birthright Citizenship Fraud Act of 2023 in the U.S. House of Representatives to end unqualified birthright citizenship ahead of questioning Department of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas in front of the House Judiciary Committee tomorrow, July 26th, I guess today. 2023 legislation would amend the Immigration Nationality Act to reflect the original intent of the 14th Amendment's subject to the jurisdiction thereof clause. If passed, the legislation would deny automatic citizenship. So, full text of Congressman Gaetz' bill can be found here. So here we go. Let's do a little zoomy. Go to the alternate page. Let's just get out of the buy me of coffee one for a second. This is really not as this is too big that I want it. Hold on. This is being really weird. There we go. That's much better. Okay. Here is Matt Gaetz's little bill. The Constitution is older than 15 years. Matt Gaetz has no interest in it. There you go, Deminox. I'm mad. I'm mad at that comment. I'm mad that I didn't think of it first. Southern states were coerced into accepting the amendment, and without this coercion, there would not have been enough states to ratify the Amendment 14. I just don't buy that. I know you disagree, but if anybody's calling right now, I can't see the call screen because I have this over it right now. So, a bill to amend whatever. This is going to get into Dobbs v. Jackson. I think it was Dobbs v. Jackson. Alito levels of idiocy when it comes to what is cited, to what laws are cited to justify this law. Although it's a law, not a ruling, but still, oi. I did read a little bit of this beforehand, so I did do a little bit of prep on this one before we went through it. The purpose of this act is to recognize the principle of limited jus soli conveyed by the 14th Amendment and codified into the Immigration and Nationality Act through the statement subject to the jurisdiction thereof, and reform the United States immigration law to be consistent with the statement's original meaning by denying automatic citizenship at birth to children born in the United States to parents who are not United States nationals, aliens admitted lawfully to the United States as refugees, aliens lawfully admitted for permanent residence, or aliens performing for active service in the United States Armed Forces. Findings. Congress finds the following. No, it doesn't. Just Matt Gaetz finds the following. Naturalization is an exclusive power of Congress. Ha ha! At least Matt Gaetz agrees there. At least Matt Gaetz agrees with me here. Stop clocks are right twice a day. Naturalization is an exclusive power of Congress as stated in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4 of the Constitution. Congress should have the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, i.e., it's not a power it's not a power that the states have. Boom. Aaron, I love you, Deminox. Deminox and Aaron Swoon. Can you feel the love tonight? Love tonight. Sorry. Birthday song in a bit. Hold on. The phrase, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, as stated in the Immigration and Nationality Act, references the same statement found in Section 1 of the 14th Amendment and carries the same meaning. The phrase, subject to the jurisdiction of thereof, is a legal term of art. A term of art. Huh? Derived from the concepts related to a limited jus soli. I'm surprised he even knows what the hell that means. And understood by the drafters of the 14th Amendment to have its basis in English common law, which in turn has its basis in Roman law. We're going back to the Roman law. We're going back to the Roman Emperor. Not just the Holy Roman Empire, folks. We're going back to the Roman Empire to justify our laws now, people. Bartolus de Saxiferato, a 14th century Italian, and he probably says Italian, and one of the first legal scholars to study the concept of acquisition of citizenship, civilitas civilitis, as deduced from the Corpus Juris Civilis, determined that Roman citizen by birth, civis ab origine, was one who had been born within the territory of the state, and to at least one parent who was already a citizen of the state. In the earliest known case to articulate jus soli in England, Calvin v. Smith, Calvin's case, it was agreed that the statuses of subject and alien were determined by whether a person was born owing allegiance to the sovereign, as indicated by the Latin phrase ad fidem regis. We don't have no sovereign. We didn't fight no war in 1776 to worry about no sovereigns. I don't know why Matt Gaetz is worried about no sovereign. We fought a war in 1776 to not have to worry about no sovereigns anymore. I don't know how he's worried about Regis or Cathy Lee for that matter. Sir Edward Coke, one of the judges deciding in the Calvin case, extrapolated one exception to jus soli, writing, "But if enemies should come into any of the king's dominions," is that like in Virginia? "And surprise any castle or fort, and possess the same by hostility, and have issue there," what kind of issue? Like, and have an issue like a fight or a quarrel, or have an issue like... "There, that issue is no subject to the king, though he be born within his dominions." I guess it is issue. Ugh. "For that he was not born under the king's allegiance or obedience. But the time of his birth, of the essence of a subject born, for he cannot be a subject to the king or England." "Well, I didn't have no king, I didn't vote for him." "Unless at the time of his birth he was under the allegiance and obedience of the king." Whether the person or at birth or is under the allegiance or obedience to the sovereign is not determined by whether his... We don't have sovereigns, Gaetz. Again, we didn't fight no war in 1776 to have to worry about no legions or obedience to no sovereign or anything. Is the subject of the territorial jurisdiction or prosecution, as any foreign enemy, marauder, or bandit would be the subject of the law of land and then captured, but instead whether his parent or president... Now, if anybody is captured in this country, they're subject to our laws. I mean, yeah. Whether his parent is present in territory lawfully and permanently, not only voluntarily availing himself to jurisdiction thereof, but doing so with the consent of the sovereign. I mean, if somebody's here and declares that they're here to be, they're seeking, whatchamacallit, whatever, they would be here with the consent of the people who are ruling, right, or people who are in charge. Senator Howard, when proposing language to be included in the 14th Amendment and making reference to English common law exceptions, clarified his intent that citizenship should not be conveyed to everyone born or present in the United States, when he stated that this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of person. Well, yeah, it's not going to include the people who are, belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers, right? I mean, that's clearly not gonna take place. Clearly, those people don't count. Clearly, but then that was when but that's not. But we're talking about other people. Senator Lyman Trumbull, a key figure in the adoption of the 14th Amendment, said the subject to the jurisdiction of the United States meant not owing allegiance to any other country. Okay, so if they're coming here and they want to owe allegiance to us, and if they've given up their allegiance to the other country, then what's that then? If they've left their other country for us, owing allegiance to the United States and being subject to its complete jurisdiction means not being subject to any foreign power. So if you're subject to our jurisdiction, you're in our lands. So if you commit a crime in the United States and you're going to be subject to our jurisdiction unless you're here like under some diplomatic immunity. That's what that means, dummy. It doesn't exclude, as he says, only those temporary present in the country, whether lawfully or unlawfully. The 14th Amendment framers intended to give citizenship only to those who owed their allegiance to the United States and were subject to its complete jurisdiction, primarily the newly freed slaves who were lawful permanent residents. I mean, no, but okay, go on. Yes, it was intended to allow for those people to who were newly freed slaves to become permanent residents, but it also included other people as well. Otherwise, it would have just said anybody who was formerly a slave who is now free is now a citizen. But they didn't say just that. They worded it differently with meanings, and words have meanings, and you're supposed to be textualists. So if you're a textualist, you can't be going by what Senator Lynn Trumbull said in whatever he said, or what Senator Howard said in whatever he wrote what he said. You have to go by the text, you hypocrites. The 1866 Civil Rights Act further clarified that the 14th Amendment didn't apply to temporary visitors who remained the citizen or subject of a parent's home country when it stated, all persons born and naturalized in the United States and not subject to Newfoundland, excluding Indians not taxed, are hereby declared to be citizens of the United States. Okay, but that's not the Constitution. That's something else. So, again, the law can't overturn the Constitution. This is just extending citizenship to other people, not what the Constitution extends citizenship to. But we should all understand that Matt Gaetz is not a brain surgeon. I mean, he hangs out with MTG and Bobo the Clown. American Indians and their children did not become citizens until Congress passed the Indian Citizenship Act in 1924, which would have been redundant for the 14th Amendment extended citizenship to every person born in the United States no matter what. Well, unless you consider the fact that perhaps those tribal nation areas were perhaps their own little sovereign areas and not part of the United States in and of itself, and there was questions about that, and if there are legal questions about that, then maybe you wanted to clarify that, and if you wanted to clarify that, you made that in the law. Maybe, Since the inception of the 14th Amendment, the Supreme Court has never interpreted the 14th Amendment to extend birthright citizenship to the children of any class of individuals who are not citizens themselves or lawful permanent residents, but that doesn't mean that it's still not true. Congressional intent and understanding of its ability to legislate naturalization with the original public meaning of the 14th Amendment is clear and apparent by evidence by legislation. Okay, but still, that still doesn't mean that what you say it means. And again, if you're a textualist, you have to go by the text and not what the other people said about the text. The current concept of unqualified birthright citizenship is inconsistent with the history meaning of the 14th Amendment. No, it's not. It's consistent with the text of the 14th Amendment, and we don't interpret our laws based off of, or we shouldn't be interpreting our laws based off of who owed allegiance to what king in the 18th century or 17th century or the 16th century, or what some Roman said in the 12th century or what have you. You might feel that it's been granted too broadly in recent decades, but I don't care what you believe, because you believe other things too that we're not going to talk about right now. See you later, Demonox. Sorry you had to leave so early. The United States is one of those two developed nations that currently grants automatic citizenship so expansively to children born within its borders. So what? You're now appealing to the majority? That is not a logical thing to do, as a logical fallacy. Unqualified birthright citizenship provides a strong incentive for illegal immigrants to cross the southern border of the United States. Why wouldn't it give illegal immigrants to cross the northern border? Why is the southern border so special? A family can return to their home country, and 21 years later, the family return as part of a chain migration, not subject to blah, 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 blah. That's just more paranoia about, the brown people crossing the border because, Matt Gaetz is a Republican, and Republicans are afraid of brown people. Illegal immigrants who cross into the United States to give birth often return to Mexico, sending their children across the border daily to attend American public schools, crowding out America's boo. It's just bigoted ridiculousess. Apprehensions of persons attempting to enter the United States illegally at the southern border of the United States surpassed 2.3 million in fiscal year 2022 and has been increasing perpetually. So wait, Matt Gaetz is saying that Joe Biden has apprehended 2.3 million folks, so he's catching them. He's apprehending them. So he's doing his job, right? So Matt Gaetz is saying that Biden is doing his job at the border? Look at that. And it's been increasing steadily since 1980. Who was president in 1981? Reagan. So I guess it's been increasing since Reagan, the hero. Again, as I said, they have the straw man of Reagan. I said that earlier in the show, which comes right back full circle. They love Reagan until they actually have to deal with who Reagan really was. Millions of illegal immigrants have at least one child who is deemed a citizen under the erroneous interpretation of the 14th Amendment. Estimates show that most children of unauthorized immigrants are citizens by birth, and the number has been increasing exponentially since 2000. Exponentially? I question his numbers. Unqualified birthright citizenship has enabled an entire black market. Estimates show that birth tourism results in 33,000 births to women on tourist visas annually. That's not exponential growth if it's 33,000 annually. That's linear. That's just a linear. That's no growth if it's 33,000 everyone. Hundreds of thousands are born to mothers who are illegal aliens, or as he's wording it. And again, I'm using the terms that he's using in the text. I don't refer to people who are undocumented immigrants that way, who are present on temporary visas, many of whom are misrepresented the purpose of the trip to avoid scrutiny. The birth tourism industry is rampant in the United States territories, with more annual births to foreign visitors than native residents in the Commonwealth of North Marinas Islands. What? That's a random area to pick? Like, what? What? The Government Accountability Office has found a fiscal impact of providing public benefits to illegal aliens. That they're eligible to receive emergency Medicaid. Cost data are not readily available because they're not required to reveal their eligibility. Total cost providing benefits to are unknown. The estimated cost of AFTC is $479 million for 92. 5 states that account for 80% of the illegal immigrant population provided most benefits totaling $2.9 billion. Clarification of birthright citizenship. Section 101 of Immigration Nationality Act is amended by adding the end of the following purposes of 301A. Term subject to the jurisdiction of means with respect to a person born in the United States. That person was born to a parent who is at the time of the person's birth a national of the United States, a refugee, an alien lawfully admitted for permanent residence, or an alien performing active service in the armed services. Effective date. The amendments made by this act shall apply to a person born after the date, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And guess where this is going to go? Absolutely nowhere. Why will it go absolutely nowhere? Because it won't pass the Senate. And there you go. So, but it's more ridiculousness by Pizza Gates.